to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, welcome in. Tuesday, July 8th. The Fantasy Footballers, Mike Wright, Jason Moore, Andy Holloway. Welcome in, everybody. We're up to 3 shows a week. We'll have an episode for you today, Thursday, Saturday. Through the rest of the month will be 3 shows a week, and then it's on to 5 a week in August.
And then
30 a week in September.
Then it's on to actual football.
Yeah, we have Hall of Fame game at the very, very, very end of this month. And then, we'll be off to the races. And you're already starting to see speculation on certain depth charts that are probably scaring.
Oh, my goodness, yes, we are.
Scaring people.
Talking about that Denver tweet?
Yes.
Goodness gracious.
We can talk about that. I believe that should be in the news. If it's not, we'll get to it. And we have an AFC South breakdown on the show today in the divisional breakdown episodes we began last week. Hopefully everybody out there had a wonderful holiday weekend. Got to enjoy it. I know we can't get July 4th on a Friday every year. That's not how
but it was nice.
Things work, but it would be nice.
It was really nice to have that be on a Friday. I feel like that one and New Year's, we need to get those locked down to a day of the week.
You do your best, Jay.
I've been
Those
trying.
ones are pretty tough. The New Year's Day.
New Year's Day.
That's a tough one to get to go on the day you want.
Year.
And Halloween. We got to get.
Oh, thank you.
We got to get Halloween on
that one. Though is
Friday
legit easy.
That one
should be like you can't move the 1st of January.
You could actually move the 1st of January the easiest.
Wait, you can move the 1st of January,
because
but you can't
you
move
could
the
just
31st?
make the rule that it starts on the day you want it to start.
That the year starts.
That the year just starts on the day you want.
Or just we observe. Okay, Halloween's the 31st. Fine, that's the date is, but we're going to observe it
the last Saturday of the month.
Yeah.
Good luck.
No, I know people. They'd rather have their children be just real tired.
What about a rule where
sugared up that night?
Where the rule is whatever day it falls on, from that day all the way through to where a weekend hits, you get all that time off.
Okay.
I'm also fine with
So
that.
if it falls on a Monday, you're goodbye.
That's,
you got the week off.
Al Borland would love that.
Al would like that.
Yeah. Is he back?
He is back in the building.
We have not started a new one. Okay. Let's check.
Let me see.
Not yet.
Wait, what do you look like
gosh.
again? Oh, yeah, I remember you.
Oh, my gosh. We didn't do the last show with him?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still a good
You
bit,
could
though.
still body bag someone.
Yeah, no, you did. YouTube.com/TheFantasyFootballers. Subscribe, click the bell. Make sure you do that now. We got more shows coming out every week. We got live episodes, and we have Sunday Live, and you'll want to know when those are going on. If you want to help the show out, an easy way to do that, if you're listening on a podcast app, click that follow button. Make sure that you are following the show, and you can leave us a 5-star review if you are so inclined. That would be awesome.
Breaking news.
Who hit that button?
I did. Halloween's on a Friday this year,
Oh,
guys.
oh.
We did it.
That means so. Wait,
I thought something really cool was about to be announced.
That's pretty cool.
so Halloween's on a Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that means that 4th of July on a Friday, Halloween on a Friday. That'll always happen at.
Wait, is that true?
I cannot confirm
Right?
that at
Right,
all.
that's how it
I don't know
should
how that
work.
works.
Well,
Yeah, because both of them fall after when leap year would be. I'm choosing to believe that.
yep. I mean, who cares? It's true now.
What day is Christmas this year?
We'll talk about that later.
So you Google it.
Andy, did you mention the draft analyzer?
Not yet.
Okay.
Would you like to mention it?
I would.
Okay.
Look, if you have
first thing Papa Josh said is we're off for Halloween then, right?
Yeah, sure, Josh. The Ultimate Draft Kit, which is that's the living, breathing draft prep. It's the only draft tool that you need to get ready for this off season. If you bought the UDK Plus, the Draft Analyzer is now live, where you can go in. You can just simply click a few buttons and import your teams if they're on Sleeper, NFL.com, ESPN, and Yahoo. look at your team, analyze it, break things down, maybe, strengths, weaknesses, who likes your team the most. Hopefully it's me, because that means your team's pretty good. But it's just it's fun. It's a good time.
It just means they drafted Christian McCaffrey.
That's so
all
true.
that means.
That's so. Who got him in Scotty Fishbowl, Jason?
We did.
Yeah, you're right.
And who did you have to ask permission to draft? You had to come to me yelling from the other room, "Can I draft Christian McCaffrey?" And I said, "Yeah, because you want to win."
Yeah.
That's the proposition with McCaffrey is if it works really, really well.
Yeah.
If. It's just what percentage you attribute to if. We'll see. But, I would get into the UDK right now because we update it constantly all throughout the offseason, and you'll get more mileage out of it the sooner you get in there at ultimatedraftkit.com. Today's quick question. You can go to the website. You can click the submit a question button if you want to send one in. Today's quick question comes from Erica in Florida. Howdy, ballers. How should your draft strategy pivot or change when your lineup has 2 flex spots? So they're in a league with 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, and 2 flex. How does that change your mindset?
Well, it doesn't change much because every league I'm in has it. But I think what it what it changes from
a weird flex.
I guess it kind of comes across.
I play with double flex, no big deal. All my leagues.
The difference to me is 2 things primarily. One is the late round quarterback, the late round tight end become more valuable as you need more depth to fill in starting roster positions at running back, wide receiver, potentially tight end, but not really. And then the other thing is assuming that you're half PPR or a full PPR.
Yeah, that's the big deal.
Wide receivers will become more valuable than running backs. When you go deeper, when you get to wide receiver 36, running back 36, and then you go past those, which when you're in a 12-person league and you've got the double flex, you will. That's where the wide receivers are pretty much always going to outscore the running backs in that range. So I'm filling my roster with a little deeper at wide receiver.
Yeah, that's the biggest change. Is you got to know your scoring format, but you want those flex positions more often than not filled with wide receivers.
And if you're in a standard, then change. So
okay,
change your scoring.
Yeah,
format?
change your scoring format. This is dumb.
Easy enough. Let's jump into some news.
News and notes from around the league.
Well, ever since the day we got the news that the Denver Broncos had signed J.K. Dobbins, who had a surprising and very good year last year for Los Angeles, and they didn't bring him back. Ever since then, we've talked about how that's going to impact R.J. Harvey, who is a prolific, highly drafted running back on a team that desperately needs a versatile running back, how it impacts the rest of the Broncos offense, and just to add more fuel to the speculative fire, Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos said J.K. Dobbins will likely be the starter. R.J. Harvey seeing extensive work, and Jaleel McLaughlin being the most trusted guy from Sean Payton.
This is
thoughts.
It's look. I don't have boots on the ground up there in Denver, but it is so wild to me. I'm not saying it's wrong, but like this dude was available. Talking about J.K. Dobbins, he's on the street. Anybody can sign him. The team that just had him and saw what he can or cannot do, they didn't want him back. And now you're like, oh, and then all the talk about R.J. Harvey of how excited Sean Payton was, and of like, this is our guy, we're going after him. And then to be like, the guy who was off the street, he's the starter. It's not computing.
I look, R.J. Harvey was drafted higher than people expected him to be. It seemed to be the selection by Sean Payton, but the level of what you have to do as a rookie, I think for Sean Payton and for a Denver offense and a team that is expected to compete, it'd be one thing if the Broncos were a bottom third team in the NFL to expect a rookie to get everything, to me. But when you are supposed to be competing and you have a veteran presence in J.K. Dobbins, who is, I don't remember his exact age.
26 and a half years
whatever
old.
you tell me is going to be way younger than you think out there. So you have a player that was played a vital role on a very good Charger team last year. comes in and is not a rookie, is a veteran, knows the ins and outs of the NFL, knows pass protection, knows those aspects, it's always going to be very difficult, I think, to project a team handing all of the reins off, especially a guy like Sean Payton, who I think he does like Jaleel McLaughlin. You watch the games last year, he was probably the best of what they had. He's not great, but he fits a role. And I don't like having to say three names when we talk about it. Yeah. I don't like having to have that discussion because, you know, you have to ask, what's the upside for R.J. Harvey?
That's everything. R.J. Harvey was the hand-selected golden child to be the new face of the Sean Payton running back room, and I don't know if that's true. This is creating a very difficult situation.
When we mentioned J.K. Dobbins on this show, the signing, and talked at all about it affecting R.J. Harvey, I saw a tremendous amount of feedback saying you're giving way too much attention to J.K. Dobbins. But this time of year, it's smoke, it's fire, it's conversation.
Yeah.
Now out of Denver, out of Mile High Sports, having the same conversation. So, you know, what is the value of R.J. Harvey in a committee? What is the value of J.K. Dobbins in a committee?
It should still be
Dobbins
really
will
strong,
be free in drafts.
I think both of these guys will be valuable, and they will both be in a committee. I do not think that Jaleel McLaughlin or Audric Estime will really factor in
I
that
agree
much.
with that.
McLaughlin, you could say all the praises. I mean, Sean Payton praises and praises and praises guys every single year.
He just talked up Audric Estime this
Yeah,
offseason.
absolutely. That means jack squat. I mean, you know,
McLaughlin caught 31 and 24 passes, and he was 5.4 a carry and 4.4 a carry in his 2 years. So to me, that's some role.
Well, my point is, last year he was so irrelevant. I mean, 140 total opportunities, and that was with
he's
Javonte.
Irrelevant for fantasy. I thought you were saying in the committee impacting other players. If you take 100 plus opportunities on the ground, you're going to impact the other guys.
My point is, he could only get that many opportunities last year with no competition there for him. Now with Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, I think those two guys will run clearly ahead, and McLaughlin will have much less opportunity this coming season than he had last year. That's the way that I view this back. I think we know it's going to be a committee. Sean Payton has always preferred a committee approach, but there's also been a lot of fantasy value in his committees.
In that case, we've talked about the Chargers and we've talked about, you know, their committee situation. Now Harvey is at least possibly in that type of a situation where Judkins on a Cleveland team that doesn't project to win a lot of games seems to be everything. How do you look at Hampton versus Harvey?
Hampton versus Harvey. I mean, Amari Hampton's just a better player. There's a reason he was the first-round draft pick. He has more competition, but he is just an elite prospect, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the Chargers, since they spent their first-round pick on him.
Yeah, I mean, and Henderson in New England will have Ramondre to deal with, so there will be a lot of sifting through depth charts, and sometimes it takes weeks. Sometimes it takes a bit of time. You normally have huge contributions from rookies in fantasy, but that doesn't mean it's from week one.
Right.
J.K. Dobbins, we'll see if this continues to be the rhetoric out of Denver. Like, let's let training camp open and see there. But, I mean, J.K. Dobbins, Andy, you said free, and it's like, yeah, can he even possibly climb into a position in ADP where it is costing you anything and you're having tremendous upside?
If they come out and say he's the starter, it's going to ruin it. But, right now
he's very interesting.
We just need to get into training camp and stay water and change opinions and projections as they come. We had news of Terry McLaurin, which is continuing the same refrain. Not happy with where things are with an extension for Terry McLaurin. Makes sense that he would want to cash in on a prolific year, best year, double-digit touchdown year. Also makes sense that Washington might not want to pay him like Jamar Chase.
Oh, yeah, you can't pay McLaurin like Jamar Chase. We expect them to get a deal done. He's not going to pull a Trey Hendrickson and sit out games and lose money if they don't get a deal. So I don't worry about this. Now, if he misses camp, there's maybe you have a little bit of the fears of the hammy. People that hold out and come in late as wide receivers. Sometimes that pops up.
Is McLaurin 29?
I believe
He
so.
is almost 30.
That's the number closest to 30.
I'm just saying, on 29.8. So like he'll be turning 30 pretty soon.
Any minute now. But
Any
that's
month
tough
now.
to give a long contract to a player
Very.
in that situation. So maybe you see them settle for a more 1-2 year deal or move money around. We were talking about it in the context of Cortland Sutton in Denver as well, who wants a contract. Maybe those will be very similar. But I think that's the major news to talk about, and we'll keep talking about it as we get into camp and where things end up. We'll take a break, and we will jump into the AFC South. All right, it is time to jump into another divisional breakdown.
Let's get divisional.
All right, a reminder, this is a general overview of the teams in these divisions, how things went last year, how things are projected this year, what does Vegas have in store for the win totals of these teams, offseason changes, players, rookies, coaches, what we believe individually about their upside and potential, and the AFC South is a weird division because to me it is like there's no conversations today, I believe, that will happen that will not be very two-sided, very balanced. I mean, there's no teams that I think don't have pretty big question marks in this division, even ones that, last year the winner was 10-7. Houston won the division, but it was not the same ride as the year before.
They were 10-7, and an interesting note of no one in the division finished with a positive point differential.
That's right. They had a 0.
Yeah, Houston won the division. They were just neutral, and then everybody else was negative. And I pay attention to those things because when you're talking about spotting a team that can actually make a run in the playoffs, like there was a year I think the Titans made. They were getting a whole bunch of fanfare. It's like, dude, they have a negative point differential. What are you talking about? And then they got shellacked. The rest of this division is still set up for Houston to take number one, but these are some weird teams.
Yeah, if you had bet on Houston last year, their win total was 9.5, so they beat it.
Hey,
but it felt like their season was like a failure despite winning the division in a lot of ways. They dealt with major injuries. CJ Stroud regressed in part due to tremendous pressure.
5 of their wins was the division.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, Tennessee had a negative 149 point differential, which is the worst in their entire history, since they moved and became the Titans in '99. So no one, like you said, no one with a positive point differential, and Houston was 18th in points per game, 16th in yards per game, 235 quarterback pressures of CJ Stroud, which was the most in the NFL. And so, I don't know where you guys fall on the excuse making for Stroud,
right,
gauge. Yeah. I fall on the mostly I make excuses for CJ Stroud
so
side.
You're going offensive line, Bobby Slowick.
Yes, and then
injuries,
combined with Nico Collins getting hurt and Diggs out for the year and Tank Dell disappearing and the world's slowest player playing tight end for you. I give him. There's 2 conversations around Stroud.
Dalton Schultz.
Well, he is too. He is the slowest person.
He's just living his life,
He's the slowest
man.
person on the planet.
Every time we watched a game, if Schultz caught the ball, I would just turn to Andy and watch him complain about how the guy is so slow.
It's cool he can catch it. I mean, not everyone could do that. But
see, you know who you don't call slow? Zach Ertz, because he just falls down. He catches the ball and falls down. You have no idea how slow Zach Ertz is.
Ertz beats Schultz in a 40.
Oh man,
That's where I'm going.
I doubt it.
But CJ Stroud as a fantasy option was a complete failure last year because he was driven up very high in average draft position by a rookie season where people were just enchanted. It was awesome. They were it went from a place where they were completely underdogs, no one expected anything from them, and they run it all the way to the playoffs, to a team that was expected to have a really good year, and it went the opposite direction because that's what happens in the NFL.
Well, and they started, I believe they started 5-1. So off to a hot start, which means the reason we're kind of viewing them a little bit more pessimistically is because the second half of last year, the majority of last year, they were really a 500 team. And whenever they had any kind of real tests, they pretty much failed them.
Yeah, and now C.J. Stroud has dropped, 6 rounds in ADP after what happened last year? So they...
0 great games last year. That'll do it.
Yeah, you did not have any fantasy value from him, essentially. Stephon Diggs is gone. Robert Woods is gone. They added Christian Kirk. They added Kyle, the Borgogan's favorite player of all time, Justin Watson. If you don't know who that is, that's all right. You don't need to. They added Nick Chubb as depth at running back and Irv Smith Jr. at tight end, who is faster than Dalton Schultz.
Oh, man.
Even when he's hurt, which is impressive. But what are your expectations for them this year? They were a good defense, and they'll continue to be a good defense. And so you wonder about game planning and what the upside is for fantasy football when you have a team that was number 6 in total yards given up. And, they are replacing their offensive coordinator, which is encouraging because Slowick was awful.
Yeah, he called. I mean, it was widely documented how much he was calling a run play on 2nd and long, which is about as bad decision as you
They'll
can.
never see it coming,
Yeah.
dude. You're going to get 4 yards.
And that failed a lot. I lean with you, Andy, that I find myself accepting the excuses more for Stroud. I don't think Stroud is a bad quarterback. I think he's going to continue developing and be a very, very good quarterback going forward. So that's where you have to, if that ends up being true, then we'll look back at last season and those excuses will be right. If that is true, that means that some of the best value to be had in fantasy football is on this team with the 2 rookies that they brought in, because the opportunity there for someone to really step forward as the wide receiver
Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll.
Yes, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll, the 2nd round and 3rd round pick respectively of this year's draft. Those guys are not being drafted high enough, I think, currently with their average draft position. And Stroud has had, Tank Dell was a fantasy superstar his rookie year with Stroud, and that was while Nico Collins was great. Stephon Diggs looked really good and was good for fantasy before he went down to injury. So you've got Nico as the 1, and then you don't know exactly what's going on as the number 2, but the opportunity is 100% there for someone to step up and be very important for fantasy, and there is not really a highly drafted wide receiver 2 on this team. So
I love Jaden Higgins, and spoiler alert, he's a sleeper in our UDK. I completely agree with you. Christian Kirk is a Band-Aid type of player at this juncture of his career who can go out there and give you a number of snaps and contribute, but not with the ceiling that you'd hope for. And Higgins is a player that I think is, he's a 2nd-round pick. He's explosive. He's large. I'm a big fan of Higgins. I think that's where the value is. I agree.
I think he is worth taking a shot on. The fact that their, the end of season rank for their offensive line, according to Pro Football Focus, they had him at 29th. Now, going into this year, friends of the show, Sharp Football, their current projections for that Houston offensive line is dead last.
Oh, they got rid of.
They traded away Laramie Tunsil because they didn't. They're trying to fix things. They didn't want to pay him more money and all those things. But that is, I love Nico Collins. I think that he is an elite guy. If things could break the right way, where Nico finishes as the wide receiver 1 at the end of the season, I think he's that good. And the connection with Stroud, and there's chances to take here, but that the offensive line is very, very scary for me for secondary options.
That leads us into a good discussion around what I think one of the biggest questions about this team is Joe Mixon, and does he have what it takes to volume his way back into a top 12 running back in spite of the fact the offensive line projects to be a work in progress is the most generous way to put it. He was the 4th most in red zone touches last year, despite missing 3 games. That was awesome. He was one of the best running backs the first 11 weeks of the season, but you have offensive line issues. So, Jay, how do you weigh in?
Yeah, they had offensive line issues last year. I do agree it's worse this year than it was last year, but through the first 11 weeks last year, Joe Mixon was the running back 1. He's not being drafted in a spot where, okay, if he takes a step back, you're not really holding the bag.
He's in the back of the 4th right now at running back 17.
Yeah, when we've done our live drafts, we're usually seeing him go off in the 5th round. And at that point, I feel like he is a value. I don't worry too much about Nick Chubb, who's turning 30 this year, coming off of an injury. And I do think Nick Chubb helps keep Joe Mixon from rising because there are people that are very worried about
Do you have any belief that Nick Chubb can return to any sort of form? I mean, he's now multiple years from the devastating injury. What was the one he broke? Did he break something in his foot?
What, you're second injury?
This
I think
most
it was
recent
a broken
one.
foot, I believe. Foot or ankle.
So it's just, does Nick Chubb have anything in the tank to challenge Joe Mixon? Because last year Joe Mixon looked great those first
broken foot. Week 15.
The first few weeks, but he also didn't have anybody to challenge him. And it like Jay, if you're like, I don't think Nick Chubb can challenge him, I think that makes a huge difference.
I don't think he can challenge him, but at least Nick Chubb could be somebody that they make the
goal line.
Yeah, they could make a decision to hand him the ball around the goal line, which would be a problem. That would bother me. I also would feel worse about I know that their ranking is worse than last year, but I'd feel way worse about this team's offensive line if they ran the same guys out there as they did last year. Running different players out when you were already pretty much dead last in the league at least has the possibility that you have improvement.
Tough when one of them is like a great tackle.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you have hope of change, but it should be pessimistic hope. They don't have a lot of talent there.
Pessimistic hope. Never heard that before.
And it's probably because it's the complete opposite of what hope is.
Dalton Schultz is slow. They're scheduled to start the year.
We're on 3 or 4.
They start on the road against the Rams, then Tampa, then at Jacksonville, and then Tennessee. It's a little tough to start the year.
Well, not the Jacksonville, Tennessee part. That's where they thrive in division.
Well, yeah, on the road against Jacksonville, though, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm assuming we'd probably pick the Rams and Tampa to win those first 2.
Yeah.
All right, we will move on. Talk about the Indianapolis Colts. It was a bumpy 8-9 season, to put it mildly. All 8 of their wins were one-score games.
It's an impressive 8-9 season to me.
And that makes so much sense. I'm like, how did they get to 8 wins?
That's what I'm saying. Doesn't
it
seem like they won 4 or 5 games last year?
Yes.
Yeah.
8.
Yeah, they did not win 4 or 5 games for fantasy players. That was one of the challenges. The projected win total was 8.5. This year it's 7.5. Feels like a very crucial make or break type of year for at least Steichen and Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
If one shot to kind of stay a starter or earn a starting job, middle of the pack in points per game last year. Tremendously bad on defense, so they said goodbye to Gus Bradley. Shocker.
You love Gus Bradley
as a head coach, Mike.
Oh yes, of course.
As a head coach,
that guy, that was
leader
the problem.
of men.
He needed more responsibility.
Yeah, I mean sometimes more is less, right? But they bring in Anarumo from Cincinnati, he had wore out his defensive welcome, whose team was awful on defense, but personnel problems for both of these teams. It's going to be there's a number of questions, I think, around Indianapolis. Quarterback is going to be one of the biggest ones, and what does that really mean to us when it comes to other fantasy players being relevant? We have a prolific rookie tight end, a first-round, top half Tyler Warren selection, and then we've got Pittman and Downs.
Oh, man, Josh Downs.
And then you've got to say, hey, do you care if it's Daniel Jones? Do you care if it's Anthony Richardson? You're going to get one of those guys. Like there isn't a third door to open where Joe Montana walks out.
Monty Hall's not offering you the third door.
No, you don't even have Joe Flacco waiting in the wings like they did last year. So, to me, those are some of the bigger questions about this team. Who do you think wins the job?
The injury to Anthony Richardson currently, we have to wait because they're like, I think he'll be ready by training camp. Does that mean the first day of training camp? Does that mean 5 days in where Daniel Jones is already building up a rapport and they're already focused on that, and now you have to steal the job?
Yeah, we'll know ahead of time. And really making that call right now feels foolish the more that you read from beat writers because people around the area are it seems like every week they're very confident that the exact opposite guy is going to be the starter.
I've seen a lot more Daniel Jones.
I have seen more Daniel Jones, but then after the Daniel Jones, they come in and say, no, Anthony Richardson is probably going to be the starter. And then a little bit more Daniel Jones.
If you timestamp it, then you're like, I told you.
I'm not sure that, and maybe this is kind of like we talked about last week, but I'm not sure that it's going to impact the draft position of these players very much.
It won't.
And in that case, we like Josh Downs. I like Josh Downs quite a bit. I think Pittman's still a player that's going to be out there all the time. He's not had a real nose for the end zone in his career, but he can be a PPR guy. It's hard to imagine a world where both of them are good. I think that's why you see a lot of people making the choice.
Both of them being great, yeah.
When it doesn't feel like it should be this real dynamic of this guy's the one, that guy's the one. I think people are choosing one because they don't think more than one can do anything.
Yeah, Josh Downs is the better value in drafts because he's later. He costs you nothing. He's had some explosive
He's
upside.
not later.
Yeah, him and Pittman are
they
right next to each other.
They're 5 picks apart right now. Wide receiver 46 and 48.
And
so
I know
they're both very late.
Both of you guys are like very, very on the Josh Downs is better than Pittman's side, right?
I think he's a better fantasy player. Like just his usage. I mean, at least the way that the quarterbacks played last year, they preferred Josh Downs and going to him very frequently.
Yeah, I do like Downs and would pick him over Pittman at that spot in the draft. You're also going to have Tyler Warren, who's, guess what, right there, same spot in the draft.
Yeah.
So you get to pick one of 3 Colts or 2 of 3 Colts
Warren
at that point in the
draft. Warren is
draft.
so difficult because this is if you're just coming back to football, Tyler Warren was a first-round tight end selected this year. He's a beast. I love Tyler Warren, but I don't know what to make of drafting he's a tight end 1 right now in current ADP with all of that stuff going on.
You missed the Too Hot to Handle episode. Is that correct? And and I think Jason and I were both very much on the not too hot to handle.
Not too hot.
Not too hot at that place. No, because you're at the very, very bottom. I mean, this is lower than where Bowers went last year.
Yeah.
And people were passing on Bowers. I think it's the right gamble to take in the 9th round.
Yeah, there's not other tight ends that are, if you're that late, you're getting a bad tight end, take a chance at someone that could be special and then stream the position, which you'll do if you don't draft Tyler Warren anyways. So I'm fine with that. The issue here with Tyler Warren is last year this was a team that threw
Tyler Warren or Dalton Kincaid.
Tyler Warren.
I think we asked that question.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I think that was actually the name that came up. And I would go Tyler Warren.
Because Dalton Kincaid he's the next guy up. And then you got Ferguson and Tucker Kraft. Man.
Some of the indifference around Downs and Pittman can, be an encouragement towards Warren. Warren is going to be the most quarterback friendly for 2 bad quarterbacks.
Warren is what scares me for those wide receivers.
Yeah.
Last year, 71% of the targets went to wide receiver for the Colts. Only 15% went to the tight end position. Those are both kind of out of the normal type of numbers for their positions. They didn't draft a first-round tight end who's a talented pass catcher to not throw him the ball a lot. They saw this hole, and they said, we've got to get a tight end who can open up the field for us. So that's going to siphon a lot of targets away from probably both Downs and Pittman. So I'm not quite as bullish on the passing game here as I think the two of you.
The second question that I think stands out for Indianapolis is how we view Jonathan Taylor and whether we view him as elite or continuing to be an elite option. Some things that stand out about Taylor, it was a prolific end to the season. We've seen the reception numbers decline after the beginning of his career. It seemed like they were going the right direction, but the last 3 years it's gone down, under 20 receptions. I don't think adding Tyler Warren is going to help the target totals for Jonathan Taylor. He had the 5th most rushing yards ever over a final 3 games of a season.
It was unbelievable.
To push him towards...
He was averaging almost 30 carries a game.
Yeah, when you watch those games, it literally felt like the team said, we don't care what's happening anymore as long as we hand it to Jonathan Taylor. And yet he was also stuffed the most of any running back on 3rd and short last year, which is a weird thing.
That is so weird.
For so many breakaway runs. So do you think elite is the word you'd use with Jonathan Taylor?
I would certainly use the word elite. Now, if you're talking fantasy elite. He's not tier 1 for fantasy, but this is a running back who should be an overall running back 1 in fantasy football. And, I think he can be top 5 in fantasy this year. Obviously, the passing has to be there. If it is Daniel Jones, I would expect more volume in the passing game than if it is Anthony Richardson. Obviously, Daniel Jones was able to do that with Saquon to a good enough degree where Saquon was very relevant for fantasy.
But the Saquon numbers went down from Eli.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this is not Eli. I mean, man, those guys who can't move in the pocket.
Yeah.
Give my running backs those quarterbacks.
If you, Jason, you probably have the ability to look this up pretty quickly, though. But where was Jonathan Taylor if you just look at where he was in points per game before the 3 weeks? Because that was the majority of the fantasy season. That was before they gave him 29, 32, and 34 carries.
Yeah, before
weeks 1 through 15 points per game. Where did he slide in? Because
I've got before the bye week, which is
okay. Yeah, one game different.
One game different. But he was still awesome. He was averaging 13.5 fantasy points per game, 80 rushing yards a game.
Not bad.
Yeah, no, it was just really truly magnificent what he did at the end of last year. And if you don't remember, this 8-win team should have been a 9-win team, right? When Jonathan Taylor had that breakaway touchdown run and dropped the
my gosh, I forgot all about that.
Ball
in the Giants
end
game
zone. Yeah, that was
Tennessee,
brutal.
New York, Jacksonville, 3 very good defenses to face to finish the year. And I'm not trying to take that away from from him, but for the majority of the season, I just wanted to see where it was when there was tumult at quarterback throughout a really difficult year.
Yeah, if he could play those bad defenses every week.
Because he finished at 9 with those 3 games.
I got some good news.
Those 3 games, he was on
too.
pace for 2,946 rushing yards.
He will play a lot of those teams again.
That is true.
Okay, I feel like we covered the Colts pretty well. They start at home, back-to-back, Miami, Denver, then Tennessee and Los Angeles on the road. And, there's some other players there. Alec Pierce will be involved, Adonai Mitchell involved, but those are the main guys. So we'll take a break, come back with 2 more teams from the South. Oh, Jacksonville, 4-13 last year, a season in which they were projected to win 8.5 games.
Whoops.
They were 4-10 in one-score games. They have a 7.5 win total this year. They have a nice strength of schedule, at least on paper, 6th best. And it's a lot of change, right? There's a tremendous amount of change in what this offense is going to look like. New offensive coordinator and head coach, Doug Peterson, goodbye. They were 26th in points per game, 25th in yards per game. Liam Cohen comes over from Tampa Bay. And so, horrific on both sides of the football. You get to 4-13 through really ineptitude on both sides, dealt with injuries.
That's why they drafted a guy for both sides of the football.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They did. They are trying to 2 birds it with Travis Hunter. He's one of the big additions, obviously. No more Evan Ingram, no more Christian Kirk. And you add Travis Hunter and you add a play caller that, is well respected in Liam Cohen. Do we still have Liam Cohen's? Do we still got his? Yeah, here we go.
Duval.
That's pretty close.
Oh man, what a goober!
I was gonna say, are we enough weeks removed from that?
Never.
No.
We'll never be.
Sure, that is an unlimited time span.
Yeah, that's like playoffs.
Yeah.
That's decades or however
Oh,
long.
it's infinite?
This is.
Will wins erase it? I think so.
It will not erase it, but they will look back on it and smile.
So, one of the biggest busts in fantasy, Travis Etienne, came from this roster last year. One of the biggest surprises and positives, Brian Thomas Jr. came from this roster last year. And we still can't get our heads around what in the world Trevor Lawrence is as a player. But first question, do you think Liam Cohen will be a fix-all for this offense when you have Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, Trevor Lawrence with Liam Cohen?
I don't think Liam Cohen is going to be a fix-all. I am excited. We had a quick question earlier this year of like what team would you wish you could see how they perform? And this was my answer because there's a path here where it's a good offense. If Trevor Lawrence comes in, he's much better than Mac Jones, and he adds, the hopeful greatness of Travis Hunter as a second wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr. going into second year, and then they've got enough running backs. I know ETN sucked, but you get him the ball in space, he can be a good asset. He was the running back 3 2 years ago. This could be a good offense. I don't personally. Yeah, that was a long 2 years for Travis Etienne. I mean, no one's had a longer short period of time than Travis Etienne. But it could be an exciting offense.
Are you pessimistically hopeful for Etienne, as you would say?
I'm optimistically doubtful.
Okay, I feel that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Which
that one makes
is
sense.
more positive?
More positive.
Optimistically doubtful, right?
I will have to get back
We
to you.
need the English majors to let us know which
Almost
one
like
is.
these words shouldn't be combined. With the question mark, no fix-all, Trevor Lawrence questions, can he support more than one target in a way that you're happy?
Yes.
Can Travis Hunter? I think I saw Travis Hunter's yardage number right now is set around 750.
That is very, very low for happiness in fantasy football. Like if he crushes that and gets to 800 yards, you will not be
that's
happy in fantasy football.
Yeah, I didn't know how you'd react to that, positively or negatively, or how conservative they were. Do you remember where Marv was?
Marv was 1,000.
Was it
and a half.
1,000? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
750. That was like Rome. Dunze was right around that range, wasn't he?
I think he was above that. Yeah.
And you don't look back at drafting Rome like
734. No, you're right. He was below.
Yeah,
you would not have been happy.
No.
And you wouldn't. I mean, he's not going to score enough touchdowns to where that kind of yardage will make you happy, or total receptions to get him that amount of yards will make you happy. So, yeah, you need it to be. It's just kind of confusing for me, if I'm honest. I look at Brian Thomas Jr. and how much of a dominator he is, and I'm just trying to figure out what Travis Hunter can contribute.
I think he could contribute quite a bit. You have Evan Ingram gone. You have Christian Kirk gone. There is a very large hole to be filled here. They need other pass catchers. We were just talking about the same thing with the Houston Texans, where they really need someone to step up at wide receiver too. Well, both of these teams have a rookie that has the opportunity to do that. But if you're going to ask me which rookie wide receiver is just who's a better wide receiver between Higgins and Travis Hunter?
Oh, yeah.
It's clearly Travis Hunter.
It will be very interesting to see what kind of consistency we get out of Travis Hunter.
Yeah, especially in the snap count department.
Because that 700 yards could come with 5 or 6 games that you would have wanted to start in him in fantasy. You know what I mean? But it could be a little less predictable, at least with Trevor Lawrence at times.
He is a very big wild card pick.
What's his ADP right now?
Right now he's in the
7th
round, wide receiver 35. I am personally fine taking the shot at that point. Rookies usually go up in drafts nearer August. If he climbs too far, though, you can't be taking him in the 5th round. No way.
Yeah. No, he feels like a fun gamble in the 7th or 8th.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, that's the kind of player versus a low ceiling option that you could draft in that same spot.
Yeah, and I think we need to give a shout out to Brenton Strange as well, their tight end. The hole left by Evan Ingram,
sleeper,
more likely to be filled by a tight end. They will still throw the ball to the tight end. I think Brenton Strange is actually decently good. Didn't he have a game? He had a game. He had like one big breakout game, but he's got the opportunity now. And so if you're in, I mean, obviously this is a deep sleeper. He's going to go undrafted in all your redraft leagues. But if you're playing best ball where you're getting 3 tight ends on a roster, I think he's like my favorite 3rd tight end.
And the
if Travis Hunter doesn't get a ton of snaps, then even more so.
It's impossible. How you can't give the number 2 overall pick not snaps.
Not snaps.
Yeah, I
Can't give him not snaps.
I didn't know how to phrase it.
No, I mean, you can give him a reduced snap count and target him when he's on the field and let him play some defense, though. That can happen.
And the days of our lives, that is the entire running back room for Jacksonville, because it's just like...
that's where we need to go.
The soap opera of that thing. And
Etienne, Bigsby, and
Bashal Tootin, who was getting draft Twitter was very infatuated with Tootin. And recently, if you're just going on the way that the coaches are talking about him, things have shifted away from Tootin.
It was too early to be – I think it was too early to be enamored with Tootin. I think it was a proportional reaction to how disappointed people were with ETN. But you gotta kind of reset here with a new offense, a new offensive system.
Which one of you two is drafting Travis Etienne in the 9th round?
I would.
At what point does he become someone you can't not draft?
I think it's the 9th round.
Yeah, but depending on your build, the 9th round is pretty late.
Because it's like I came into this offseason thinking there's no way I would draft Travis Etienne. Like why would I possibly draft him?
Bro, I will pay you to have Breece Hall and Travis Etienne as your 2 league of record running backs this year.
No, thank you.
We will let both guys, everyone in the league will combine to let them slip as far as it takes.
I believe that. And that just shows you
full league collusion.
League collusion. That's right.
To help someone. Everyone's going to
Is it collusion that everyone agrees?
It's helping
I don't
with
know,
a wink.
NFL.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, this is we're going to help you out, sucker.
Right. Gotcha.
Tank Bigsby could also be.
Yeah, I still think
he could have a huge role at the running back
That's the hardest
position.
part about of ETN in the 9th is Tank is in the 11th, and
he just doesn't catch passes.
I get that.
So they will. I did mention they have a schedule that looks all right. They do start the year against Carolina at home, then it's on the road against Cincy, then at home against Houston, then at San Francisco. I was reading today, San Francisco, I think, has the easiest schedule since 2015 of any team.
Oh, man. Wonder who's going to be good on that team.
If you look at the schedule and you just take out the divisional, because those will be tough games. You know, the Rams, Cardinals, maybe Seahawks games, those could be tough. But everybody else they play, it's hard to look at San Francisco and not see a really good year.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't mean it will be good and he'll be healthy. But if he's healthy, he will be good. That's what it means.
And that's the hardest part.
Goodness. All right. Tennessee. I said it at the top. Worst point differential in the 26 years of the Titans franchise. Negative 149. They went 3-14. I don't know if there was a head coach that I saw more frequently because we watch every single game every single week. But the level, I was scared for his personal safety and health. There was no player more at risk of a sideline heart attack than Brian Callahan last year. His debut as a head coach, and he gets to watch Will Levis on a weekly basis turn his plans for this team into mush.
He kept putting him out there. I mean, eventually he's screw this, we're putting Mason Rudolph out there.
That was it. He basically had no choice for a good portion of the year. And it's like, it was so difficult to watch. You know, if you listened to this show last offseason, a bet on Ridley was a bet on Will Levis working out. It was also a bet on Brian Callahan fixing problems. If you want to look at, can it go right for Liam Cohen? Can it go wrong? It can go wrong if your quarterback can't play football. Callahan was a very, exciting name to arrive in Tennessee with the potential of making things better if you had a quarterback. Instead, you got a new quarterback because you had the number 1 pick.
Well, so Andy, do they have a quarterback this year?
They have a quarterback.
They have a good quarterback.
But I will not accept the this year part of your question.
Well,
I think they have a quarterback for the future, but I think for this year when it comes to fantasy, we're going to have a hard time.
Will rookie Cam Ward put up more than Will Levis did last year?
Yeah.
This depth chart says that Calvin Ridley is still a value. He is lower than last year, obviously older, but he put up 1,000 yards last year despite how that felt. It felt awful, and it was very inconsistent as the quarterback play was. But when I see Calvin Ridley late in these drafts, I'm really, really surprised how late you can get him in the drafts with humans. I don't know where his ADP is, but in the ones where you're actually doing them, feels like people don't want Calvin Ridley too much.
They don't want any Titans.
Yeah, and I'm fine if that's the approach you want to take, honestly. I think Ridley could prove to be of value. I think this team could also lean on the running game and keeping Cam Ward in situations that are going to protect him. It's really tough. I mean, how great can a rookie? What kind of numbers can a rookie provide?
Usually not great.
What's the ceiling? The touchdowns and things like that. Like Calvin Ridley, I think was okay on the field, like on the film last year. He was okay. Didn't blow me away. Got frustrated, obviously. Targets were, all over the place, and he couldn't. They invested in a lot of rookie wide receivers in this draft, at least a pile of them.
Oh, you have them all in Dynasty.
Yeah, I'm so happy. DK and Gunnar Helm in the fourth, and Io Manor, and they added Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson. So those guys, they might not even see the field, those rookies, because I think Lockett and Jefferson could be out there a lot. No more Westbrook Akine, touchdown a week, but this was a really, really, really bad team on offense last year. Yep. And so it's going to get a reset. Cam Ward's going to get every opportunity, but you're still looking at this team as the basement of this division, right? I mean,
it's tough. This team comes down to Cam Ward, period. Like most teams, the quarterback is everything. But if you're looking for a team to take a huge leap forward, a la the Texans 2 years ago, a la the Washington Commanders this last year, it's always on the back of, wow, the quarterback was better than we thought as a rookie. And so that's where I don't mind taking the shots on some of these players because, look, Calvin Ridley's probably not going to be great. But also, he was the wide receiver 30 last year, and he's being drafted as the wide receiver 38 this year while having the potential that Cam Ward comes in and has one of these excellent rookie years, which we're seeing more and more and more. It was like go back 5 years ago and the hit rate on, wide receivers succeeding with a rookie quarterback coming in, very poor. But if you look in more recent history, since Justin Herbert, you've got a lot of examples of, someone coming in and Nico Collins being great or Tank Dell being great or Terry McLaurin being great.
The rookie –
Cortland Sutton last year.
The rookies coming in, there have been some of those. The data still says that the peak for that wide receiver one is pretty low. And the most successful ones have been the super hyper elite players over the last 10, 15 years. You almost never get double-digit touchdowns, things like that. But the price you pay for Ridley is not a lot. I think the question marks for fantasy that are going to be more relevant to people are going to be which – is Tony Pollard going to prove to be a value?
That's the question: is do you believe the coaches when they're saying it yet again of we want to have a timeshare with Tony Pollard and Spears? Like, do you actually believe that? Because if you don't, then Tony Pollard is a where is he going in the seventh round? It's like. I know ETN's a little bit later, but it's like Tony Pollard or Travis
I would much
Etienne.
rather have Pollard than ETN.
I would much rather have Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to have someone say almost the identical thing that they said last year that was not true and believe them this year. That feels like a fool's errand.
Yeah, I mean, it was not close for the first part of the year. Spears had a nice finish to the season where he had more opportunities, finally. But it wasn't, it wasn't the year people drafted Tajay Spears last year.
Yeah.
And it was worth nothing. So, Chig Okonkwo gave you a little splash in the fantasy playoffs.
Dude, I do not remember that. Did he?
Well,
you don't remember when
you didn't remember
Andy
the call of calls, my friend?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
Wide receiver or tight end 3 in week 16, 9 for 81. That was the Britton Strange v. Chig Okonkwo. Yeah. This is where you get in fantasy. You have all these exciting, prolific names, and then when you get to week 16, we're sitting here, and every year it's like
that's the good stuff.
Was it Jarrett Patterson, the running back for
Washington?
Yeah, or years ago, Hightower.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
I mean, you win with some nasty boys, Mike. You got that?
Of course I do.
That's why we say you don't win your championship at the draft because a lot of these guys aren't going to be drafted that are going to be in championship games.
How does this team see what Okonkwo can do if you feature him in the offense and be like, nah,
they just have too many other pass catchers.
They got too many superstars.
Yeah.
You got
Treylon
Burks out there.
No, Chig feels a lot like
Njoku.
That's exactly what I was going to say. David Njoku, early career, not the snap counts that you wanted. And then they drafted Gunnar Helm and look, Okonkwo is your best or second best pass catcher. That's the truth.
But
he's the most athletic, one of the most athletic tight ends.
Targets.
So you got Ridley, and then really at this juncture of the career, you got a pile of rookies, and you got the corpse of Tyler Lockett. Respectfully,
no disrespect to you, Tyler.
But
Lockett.
yeah, Chig is just a weekly dart throw situation, unfortunately.
It's sadness.
They start against Denver in Denver. That'll be really tough. And then Los Angeles, the Rams, that'll be tough. Then the Colts at home, and then Houston. If we're looking at the division, Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Tennessee, give it to me. What is the
oh my gosh.
How do you think this one's going to
I'm really trying to see how I can not be chalk.
Okay.
Someone needs to go first.
Andy, I nominate you.
I went first last time.
I know. You're the leader. You're the host.
You went first last time, so you stay first.
Right. You established the order.
Yeah. All right. I'll go non-chalk. You ready? Houston wins the division.
Chalk.
Yeah, that would no. You can't.
Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Tennessee.
Okay, so you're just going to go for just exactly what happened last year.
No, I
got it.
So there's multiple versions of chalk. There's the betting version, and then what happened last year.
No matter what you said, I would
and
make
the way
sure it was
I
chalk.
said it was
Let me
gonna
just
go.
see the way that you lead us in this totally like independent thinking version.
Tennessee.
All right.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Jacksonville,
Okay.
Houston, Tennessee, Indianapolis.
You okay? So like 3 years ago, the order. Mike, what do you got?
Oh man. Yeah, Houston to win the division. I think I'm with you, Andy. Houston, Colts,
Jacksonville,
Jags, Titans.
Okay. All right. Well,
I really backed myself into a
yeah,
corner
you
there
did.
to not
You did.
take
You
Houston
did.
at
I'm
the
so
top.
happy. All right, we'll be covering the AFC East and AFC West on the next couple of shows. A reminder, we're 3 shows a week. Make sure you follow. Check out the Ultimate Draft Kit. We're also going to work a mock draft episode in between some of these divisional breakdowns as well. So we got lots coming your way. The community at jointhefoot.com, including the Discord channel with, I don't know if Papa Josh has a recent number, but it's somewhere 30,000 plus, 40,000 plus, 50,000 plus. What are we at, Josh?
We are at 58.9 thousand.
Goodness gracious.
What is this 30,000?
I didn't even know there was that many people in the world. That's awesome. And yeah, check it out. Jointhefoot.com is the community, ultimatedraftkit.com for your drafts. And we'll be back. We got another episode Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, boom, 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 boom. And then football.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.